Hey everybody, welcome back to What's for Dinner. It's about 10 minutes after 4 on Wednesday. I hope you're all doing well. It's super brutal hot today. I went out and I hiked at the one of our local parks, the nature center here, did about 5 miles, and I was absolutely drenched when I was done. But
it's 100 degrees.
It's easily 100 degrees outside, and plus I'm going by all this vegetation, so all the humidity was coming off of it and whatnot. But despite all that, it's still only activity. So remember, walking and whatnot is not considered working out. It's just activity. Even if you do it in the 100-degree blaring down sun at noon and 80% humidity and whatnot. So
I always wish all the housework I do all day and don't sit down counts as exercise, but it doesn't.
Or outside doing your gardening and your weeding and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's not the same. So anyway, do you want me to just go ahead and go over everything? So today we're doing our burgers. So we got ground beef on a cow that we had went in on, and so we've got the burgers. Mine have baby Swiss cheese on them. And then Teresa's has the American cheese, and we use the Redmond's Real Salt and Jane's Crazy Mixed Up Seasoning for our seasoning on those. And then the brats you see there, those are Philly cheesesteak brats from one of our local butchers here. We get it from Harder House, for those of you who are in the Springfield, Missouri area. And then Teresa did her air-fried chicken wings. We also got these from the butcher, and she air-fried those for about 25 minutes, hon?
Yeah, 30.
30 minutes in our Instant Vortex Pro air fryer. You can get that on Amazon if you want. Then she scrambled up some eggs. And we're doing some leftover cauliflower mash, some guacamole, a little bit of bacon, some onion and tomato, and then we've got sauerkraut and pickles over here too. So just all the toppings and whatnot for our meal.
Yeah.
So Teresa, tell me something. Will any of this food we prepare tonight cause your blood sugar or insulin to spike, and why is that important?
It won't, because when you spike your sugar, you spike your insulin. Insulin creates inflammation and lots of other stuff, and then that's what leads to disease. So listen, everyone wants to lose weight. That's what people want. If you want to lose weight, you have to get your insulin down so your body can use your own fat stores for fuel. If your insulin is constantly in play, your body never has to tap into your fat stores, and we all have plenty of fat on our body to use as fuel. So, and then beyond that, insulin is the cause of most blood pressure issues. It's the cause of heart attack and stroke, not cholesterol. It's the cause of fatty liver, gout, all the things. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, and we were just talking about this last night because our son Blake, he was talking to somebody at a grocery store who had asked him about something health related. And he was talking about, anyway, this individual brought up low carb, and they said they're kind of doing low carb, not full low carb. So we get this a lot, Teresa's patients, clients I've worked with and whatnot. So there's no such thing as kind of low carb. You're doing low carb or you're not. Here's why, is because if you're doing low carb and you're doing really good for, let's say, 2 or 3 days, and then you kind of binge a little bit, you have some bread or whatever, well, that's going to cause your insulin to spike, and it's going to knock you out of ketosis. So then it takes, for certain people, it can take, a few days to get back into ketosis. So the problem too is that a lot of people, will start sneaking in these little carby foods, just having a little bit of it, thinking that it's okay, not realizing that those little bits are enough to knock you out of ketosis. And by the time you're doing that, let's say on Monday night, you have some bread, you're out of ketosis, you're still out of ketosis on Tuesday, but you eat really good on Tuesday, and you're kind of getting back into ketosis. And then Wednesday or Thursday, you kind of do a little something else. You have some rice or you have oatmeal or whatever. And the next thing you know, you're out of ketosis. So you end up really where you're never in ketosis.
Right.
And that's tricky. I know it's hard, guys, but.
Especially, I worked with a trainer one time, and she had me doing low fat, of course, because this was back in the 90s. And then once a week, so I chose the weekend, for like a certain window, you can glutton anything you could ever think of, you can have it. Like, that's not doing anyone any good either, because then the next day you're roller coastering, you're craving, and then I was just white knuckling it to the cheat day. And
that problem there is you're not addressing food addiction, you're not addressing hunger and satiety. All of those are a problem. So you got to address those. I'm telling you, and I've said this before, is if you're working with a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a dietitian, a provider, whoever it is, and they're not addressing food addiction and hunger and satiety, and they're not working with you on those, run the other way, because they're not doing you any good.
It's going to be very difficult to get to the other side if you don't understand addiction. And so yesterday we had a case study. My patient whose fasting glucose was like 101, her A1C was 5.8, which is prediabetes, and her fasting insulin was 32 something. And I want fasting insulin 3 to 5 and below. And incidentally, I saw on one of the carnivore groups that a lady asked her doctor for fasting insulin, and she got sent to a psychiatrist, because she was told she probably has a eating disorder, mental disorder. And and then to a dietitian. So, but no fasting insulin. Anyway, so my patient is way up here. 5.8 is a daily blood sugar of about 130, 140. Her insulin's up here. Take me, I'm down here. My blood sugar average is about 70. My insulin's probably 4, last time I checked it. And we both eat what that woman at the grocery store told Blake she eats, which is every morning she eats toast. Everybody eats wheat toast because you think that's healthier than white, but it's more sugary. So 2 pieces of wheat toast is 50 carbs. So if my patient and I ate 2 pieces of wheat toast, we're gonna spike our sugar. But look what happens to her. Because she started so high, I might not even go above 100, but she's gonna go probably up to 200 or 250. So it all matters on where you start. So I was thinking, what I forgot to tell you guys yesterday is this is the part where you have to be careful about going to trainers and nutritionists, because the plans that my patients bring back to me, or when they come to see me, the carbohydrates are always anywhere between 180 to 210 grams of carbs a day. And if someone is already like my patient at 5.8 A1C, which is pre-diabetic, and a fasting insulin at 32, and you put them on 180 grams of carbs a day, their insulin is never going to come down. Now, to be fully transparent, most of people are eating about 300 grams of carbs a day. So in theory, going to 180 would be low carb, but you're really not going to make it far. Okay, you will bring your insulin down a bit, but like that's...
Talk about too, like, so you have these, whether it's you or anybody else, you go on this, you get this sugar bolus, you get all this sugar in all of a sudden, and your sugar and your insulin, spike, and they go really high. Then an hour later they crash. It comes down really hard. And then what does that do? And how does that feel?
So hungry, craving, need something now, ravenous, and then you binge, and then you crash, and then you binge, and then you crash. And it's exhausting. And meanwhile, your mental health is suffering. You got anxiety, irritability, moodiness, and then you're like could be triggering a migraine, all of this other stuff.
Is this when you go crazy on your husband or your kids and stuff when that's happening?
They are extra annoying when you are eating like that.
Yeah.
Extra annoying.
Very tough.
Yeah.
And so the higher your blood sugar goes, the farther it's going to crash.
Right.
And so the worse you're going to feel.
Right.
So just keep that in mind too. So I know there's a lot of research, a lot of people talking about it in our space, with kids and the dietary recommendations for like the schools and whatnot. And so you've got these kids who already, like especially little boys, they're fighting, to keep attention during school and whatnot. And now you're giving them these large amounts of sugar in their meals, and their blood sugar's going through the roof, and then they're crashing down, and they get cranky, and they get irritable, and they have all those problems in class.
Right.
And then it's like, oh no, your kid has ADD. He can't sit still. He's cranky. He's irritable, and it's being misdiagnosed or misaddressed.
Right.
And that's too bad.
Chris Palmer, who's the Harvard psychiatrist, just wrote the book Brain Energy. Great podcast that I've shared on my page a lot. He was on Low Carb MD podcast. He said ADD would pretty much be eliminated from schools if we changed the food.
Wow, imagine that. Just changing some dietary guidelines, and the next thing you know,
But in order for schools to get funding, they have to eat the way the government tells them to eat, which is whoever pays them the highest money.
Yes, and government...
Oh, by the way, this is not medical advice.
Definitely not medical advice. Yeah, you need to go see your provider and talk to them about that.
Hopefully they got more than 9 hours of nutrition in school.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
All right, anything else?
How many minutes are we at?
Oh, we're about there.
So the woman that was talking to Blake, he went to our local grocery store that has a florist to get flowers for his girlfriend, and he's always doing that. So these ladies know him, and they started saying, "Well, I had a hysterectomy and all this stuff." And Blake was like, "You think you need to talk to my mom?" But when you are in menopause, you are low in hormones, and it is almost impossible to lose weight when you have low sex hormones, which we'll talk about in another video. But just to preface it for next time, when you get your cat spayed or neutered, what happens to them?
I know what happened to ours.
All of our cats.
Yeah.
Their belly suddenly starts touching the ground, and they get this pendulum fat that's swinging back and forth. And our little cat, our newest cat that showed up at the door, because we never actually get cats, they always just show up at the door.
Yeah.
She was like so little. She was 6 pounds when we got her. We had her for 9 months before we got her fixed, and she ballooned up.
Yeah.
And she runs like a crazy maniac Looney Tunes person, and she still has that belly.
Yeah.
That's the power of menopause.
Yeah. Right on.
So we'll talk more about that later.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, shoot them our way and tell us what you're having for dinner. And we love you guys. We'll see you next time. Hope to see you all at the prayer meeting or at church or whatever
Yes.
you guys call it tonight. And God bless you all.
Bye.
See you. Bye.